This is the Music History Today podcast for November the 15th. On today's show, Milli Vanilli gets into trouble, and the Beastie Boys and Drake both come out with mega albums. First up, though, on this date in 1832, Felix Mendelssohn premiered his Symphony No. 5, better known as the Reformation Symphony, in Berlin, Germany. In 1845, the opera Maritana opened at the Theatre Royal, Drury Lane in London, England. In 1903, the opera Tiefland opened in Prague. In 1926, the first radio broadcast that was done by a radio network was of performances from the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. The network that did the broadcast was NBC. In 1934, the movie's first singing cowboy, Gene Autry, showed up on screen for the very first time in the movie Old Santa Fe. In 1956, the Broadway musical Little Abner opened at the St. James Theater, and on that same day, Elvis Presley's first movie, Love Me Tender, premiered in New York City at the Paramount Theater. In 1978, Echo and the Bunnymen played their first gig when they performed at Eric's Club in Liverpool, England. In 1990, Frank Farian, producer of Milli Vanilli, confirmed at a press conference that the duo did not sing their own songs on their debut album. Because of that, the Grammys actually took away their Best New Artist Grammy. In 1992, Ozzy Osbourne finished the No More Tears tour at the Pacific Amphitheater in Costa Mesa, California, with his former band, Black Sabbath, featuring Rob Halford from Judas Priest on lead vocals, opening the final concert. Ozzy had billed it as his final concert of his final tour, and much like Cher and others who always claim that it's their final tour, it turns out it wasn't Ozzy's final tour either. In 1999, Korn became the first hard rock artist to play at Harlem, New York's Apollo Theater, which is known more for jazz, R&B, and hip-hop performances. Korn performed at the Apollo as a promotion for their new album, Issues, which they performed in its entirety during the show. In 2005, the group Danity Kane formed on the finale of the reality TV music show Making the Band 3. In 2007, the music performance show Live from Daryl's House, starring Daryl Hall of Daryl Hall and John Oates, premiered on the internet. In 2018, BTS released their documentary, Burn the Stage, the movie. Also in 2018, country music singer Roy Clark, who also performed on the TV show Hee Haw, passed away from pneumonia at the age of 85. And in 2022, 2.4 million tickets for Taylor Swift's Eras Tour pre-sale were sold, making it the most tickets ever sold in one day for a concert tour. Unfortunately, Ticketmaster's systems crashed, which led to a government investigation and a whole lot of really upset Swifties. In award ceremonies that were held on November the 15th, in awards of sorts, you might say, in 1999, country music superstar Tim McGraw was named People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. That's an award. Why not? In 2002, Ringo Starr was inducted into the Percussive Arts Society Hall of Fame. In 2005, Keith Urban and Gretchen Wilson were among the big winners at the Country Music Association Awards, and Glenn Campbell, Alabama, and DeFord Bailey were inducted into the Country Music Hall of Fame. DeFord Bailey became one of the first African-American members to ever be inducted into that hall. In 2016, Smokey Robinson received the Gershwin Prize from the United States Library of Congress. In 2017, Tony Bennett received the Gershwin Prize from the Library of Congress. And in more awards of sorts, in 2017, country music superstar Blake Shelton was named People Magazine's Sexiest Man Alive. Albums that were released on November the 15th include in 1960 when Muddy Waters released Muddy Waters at Newport 1960. In 1970, the Velvet Underground released Loaded, and Van Morrison released his band and the Street Choir. In 1972, America released Homecoming. In 1974, Roxy Music released Country Life. In 1978, the Grateful Dead released Shakedown Street. In 1984, Kool and the Gang released Emergency. In 1985, Echo and the Bunnymen released Songs to Learn and Sing. In 1986, Stevie Ray Vaughan and Double Trouble released Live Alive, Frank Zappa released Jazz from Hell, and the Beastie Boys released their mega debut album, License to Ill. In 1988, the Cowboy Junkies released the Trinity Session, Sheena Easton released The Lover in Me, Fleetwood Mac released their greatest hits album, Journey released their greatest hits album, and Kiss released Smashes, Thrashes, and Hits, which was essentially their greatest hits album. In 1992, Ween released Pure Guava. In 1994, Method Man released Tycho. Bob Dylan released Bob Dylan's Greatest Hits Volume 3. In 1999, Ace of Base released Singles of the 90s. Chris Rea released Road to Hell Part 2, and Bryan Adams released The Best of Me. In 2004, Bruce Springsteen released The Collection. In 2005, Bush released Zen x4. The Rembrandts released Choice Picks. Wilco released Kicking Television Live in Chicago. Jimmy Buffett released Live at Fenway Park. Bob Dylan released Live at Carnegie Hall, 1963. Loggins and Messina released Live Sittin' In Again at the Santa Barbara Bowl. Madonna released Confessions on a Dance Floor. And Bruce Springsteen released Born to Run, the 30th Anniversary Edition, and country superstar and American Idol winner Carrie Underwood released her debut album. In 2011, REM released Part Lies, Part Heart, Part Truth, Part Garbage, 1982 to 2011, and Drake released his mega album, Take Care. Singles that were released on November the 15th include in 1963 when the Dave Clark 5 released Glad All Over in the UK on that date. In 1965, Paul Revere and the Raiders released Just Like Me. In 1966, Elvis Presley released If Every Day Was Like Christmas. In 1968, the Ivies released Maybe Tomorrow. In 1970, Spirit released Mr. Skin. In 1972, the Doobie Brothers released Jesus Is Just All Right. In 1974, the Doobie Brothers were at it again, this time releasing their big hit Black Water. In 1975, 10cc released Art for Art's Sake, and the Eagles released Take It to the Limit, another big hit for them. In 1976, George Harrison released This Song. In 1978, Kenny Rogers released his signature song, The Gambler. In 1982, Whitesnake released Here I Go Again, which was a big hit for them later in the decade. This was the original release date for that. And also on that same day, John Lennon released Love. In 1990, Jane's Addiction released Been Caught Stealing, probably their biggest hit ever. In 1993, Madonna released Bye Bye Baby, and in 1999, Bryan Adams released The Best of Me. Before we continue, we'd like to tell you that we've started Season 2 of the Music History In-Depth podcast, where we go more in-depth on some of the events that we mention on this particular podcast. The Music History In-Depth podcast drops every Tuesday on this podcast network. Now, back to the Music History Today podcast. Artists who were born on November the 15th include Chad Kroeger of Nickelback, Frida of ABBA, Ab Bryant of Chilliwack, singer Petula Clark, singer Alexander O'Neill, rapper Old Dirty Bastard of the Wu-Tang Clan, Jimmy Ellis of the Tramps, Joe Leeway of the Thompson Twins, Jay Bennett of Wilco, drummer Tony Thompson, both of Chic and the Power Station, Michael Cooper of Kun Funk Shun, Steve Fossen of Heart, Rick Kemp of Steel Eye Span, R&B singer Little Willie John, Clyde McPhatter of the Drifters, singer Joe Hinton, singer C.W. McCall of Convoy fame. That was a hit back in the 70s. Classical conductor Mantovani, Frank Infante of the group Blondie, guitarist Dan Huff, rapper E40, singers Ace Young, band leader Kevin Eubanks of the Tonight Show band back in the day, Hyun Hin of Luna, rapper B.O.B., singer Jake Shim, singer Charlotte Summers, and rapper Russell Tyrone Jones. Artists who unfortunately passed away on November the 15th, other than the ones mentioned earlier, include the conductor of the Chicago Symphony Orchestra from 1953 to 1963, Mr. Fritz Reiner, record producer Christian London, steel guitarist Speedy West, singer and actress Dorothy Loudon, singer Azar Habib, entertainer extraordinaire Dulcie Gray, Moogie Klingman of Utopia, songwriter P.F. Sloan, pianist Mosey Allison, record producer Milt Oken, the cellist for the Boston Symphony Orchestra from 1964 to 2016, Jules Eskin, rapper Lil Peep, and singer-songwriter Heber Bartolome. Next on the Music History Today podcast, it is November the 16th when in 2010, the Beatles catalog became available for the first time on iTunes.